Okay, so a newsletter is a way to build a community about something specific and niche or broad, right? So like I gave an example. So we have a client that sells a very high-end machine for breathing, right? And it's for biohackers. It's also for a lot of like ailments and health and stuff like that. If it's a very expensive machine too, so we can't just sell the same machine all the time because it's very expensive, right? Or the guys that sell the cold plunge that everybody has bought, right? If they just say, hey, more cold plunge, yeah, you're going to get some sales, but you're not going to get a lot of growth. So instead, I would do a newsletter in this fashion. So a newsletter about biohacking, right? And the biohacking newsletter would be about that person and what they enjoy. That person likes cold plunging. They want to take the air machine as well. They also want infrared. They also want peptides. They also want better sleep. They also want better supplements. They also want to increase their max VO2. They want to know what the best diet is. They want to know if they can increase their longevity. Those are all my topics now for a newsletter that's going to educate and it's going to support this person in their journey to enhancing the way that they look and feel, because that's their goal in biohacking, right? And I'm going to be able to sell news spots or advertisement space inside of that with potential partners. And I'm going to be able to sell my stuff more because it's always going to be the main event inside of the newsletter, right? Because it's brought to you by that company.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get super tactical. Can I get super tactical?
Yeah.
So I love this stuff, like geek out on it. So I learned this also from Dan Kennedy. You can learn a lot from this dude. So he called them clicks on a dial, and he had 12 for the 12 different months because he was actually sending physical newsletters in the mail every month. So he had to send one a month. And so he had these 12 clicks on a dial were the 12 things that he wanted to be known for, all of them having to do with direct response marketing. And so his might have been newsletters, might have been copywriting, might have been advertising, like all these different things. So they're everything that you just said, right? Infrared sauna is one, heat exposure is one, cold exposure is one, dieting is one, supplementation is one. So you have all these different clicks on a dial. And then what you do, so Kennedy used to do this. He literally has, I've been in his basement is where he takes all of his clients. He has file cabinets for each of those 12 things. And so whenever he'd be reading a magazine, reading a book, rip it out, and this goes in the copywriting thing. This goes in the advertising thing. This goes in the infrared sauna thing.
Use
this
Notion
goes in
now for that.
Now you can use Notion. Yeah, that's where I was going. It's like you got Evernote and Notion and like Obsidian or whatever that you use now. But that's like the coolest thing when you see a tweet or an Instagram post about like, oh, that's a really super cool article or quote or case study on infrared saunas. Let me store that in here. So now when I go to write my newsletter, I've already got this Evernote folder or this Notion folder with 20 different tweets. Now, how easy is that now to write the newsletter
100%.
when you stacked all of these different things? It's funny, like when we go to like even film these episodes, what were we doing right before? I opened up Evernote and I was like, all right, here's a cool topic, boom. And I like have all these things saved. And I know that no matter what I talk about, as long as they're one of these clicks on the dial about media, marketing, content, commerce, video, newsletter, like whatever that it is, it's positioning me as the media guy and you as the media guy. So very tactically, what are the things that you want to be known for? If you're a real estate agent, what do you want to be known for? Like luxury homes. Cool. It doesn't even have to be your listing, but maybe you're finding that's the sickest bathroom I've ever seen and it's like super luxury. Boom, that's a click on a dial. Cool high-end restaurants and how to get reservations with them. Boom, another click on a dial. And so you just have these things, and now writing the newsletter becomes super easy because you just pick one thing from this bucket, one thing from this bucket, one thing from this bucket. Boom, newsletter is done. And I don't know, hopefully that was helpful, but that's how I think about it all the time, is like filtering these things into buckets, into categories.
Right.
And no matter what I talk about, it's going to position me as the guy or the gal or the person that is known for, you know, whatever it is that you want to be known for.
Why should you do a newsletter? It is old school. It's possibly one of the most old school things in the world, but so are baggy pants and everyone's wearing them now, right? Like what's old comes back into new. I mean, Greg's been doing newsletters since 20 years, and he learned it from a guy that was doing newsletters 20 years ago.
20 years before me. Yeah.
Things work, right? There's structure in simplicity, because fancy things become tactical, and those tactical things are like the Shabuzi song. They have a moment, but they're not forever, right? What is forever is using songs like that consistently, and that is a strategy. Now that becomes a simple structured strategy that you can apply. A newsletter is part of what is happening right now. Is everyone's looking for community, because all the Instagrams, Facebooks, they just became such the world as the addressable market that you are alone. And so Facebook groups became and all that. Now you're looking to more and more and more. And so newsletters kind of create a definition of you, right? Like I read a couple of newsletters in fitness and another couple in fashion to like stay up to date on like what's going on. And just there's you read the newsletter because you have a hobby, or if you're doing some sort of like business thing, like you read a newsletter because you want to be better educated in your craft, et cetera, stuff like that, right? So newsletters are never going away. It's one of the premier and best ways to get into an audience, and you also can own them, you can rent them, and that's where that ideal audience is always going to be.
So my take on it is that everybody loves to buy things, but they hate to be sold. Right. And most people, whether you're a real estate agent, I don't want just to get emails every day from you that are just like listing, new house for sale, new house for sale, new house for sale. Hey, I just sold a house. Like that as just a random person on your email list, like that's not exciting to me. That's not, but what do I care about? So if I'm a real estate agent, I'm creating a newsletter where we talk about this all the time, where I'm the mayor of the city. I know the cool new coffee shop that just opened, and I know this cool new park thing that they're doing, and here's 10 cool activities to do with our kids this summer. And oh, by the way, if you're looking for a house, here's my listings.
You could even do the exact same thing. Let's say we built a newsletter about Orlando, and it sells the studio. How's it going to sell the studio? Hot restaurants, what's going on, who the newest entrepreneurs are. They can come get in a podcast here.
Yeah.
What's going on in Orlando, expansion, growth, new restaurants, spotlight entrepreneurs, newsletter, right? Because you live here. And so boom.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those brands, you can get advertising. And if not, like, hey, come shoot over here if you are a company, blah, 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 right? So you can do stuff like that. We just gave an example on the past ones. We'll click over here so you guys can go check out that video as well on basically a sunglass company that basically can become a health and wellness lifestyle company as a media company first, going newsletter and content. And then we did another one with golf as a golf apparel business, actually launching a newsletter on how to be a Renaissance man, and even like we lightened it down a little bit on just like golf and all the golf topics that there are, right? Because I met a guy like probably like 20 years ago. I was like, if someone's buying one thing from you, they're buying something from someone else. So either vertically integrate that thing or buy it or create it, because they're going elsewhere to buy it.
Yeah, I think I hear from so many, like the grommet, the number one thing I get is like, well, I only sell a phone case. That's my only product. Like I don't have 20 other SKUs or whatever. How do I email the people who buy, and I can't just say buy another phone case, buy another phone case, buy another phone case. So a newsletter is your way to always have something to talk about, because maybe you're into cool tech trends, maybe you're into cool new products coming out, maybe you're, like whatever the case is, you're helping people to like live a better life through something. Yeah. And it's your way to like have this relationship. The word you always use is community. It's like you're creating a community. You can't create a community around phone cases.
No.
Right? But you can create a community around cool tech products that make our lives a little better. You can create a community around things like that. And that's to me where the newsletter comes into play. Yeah. Is it's your ability to create community and give people in your marketplace a reason to like talk to you and open up and reply. Like Dan Kennedy, the guy who you were referring to, who I learned newsletters from, always said that you can judge the health of a business, and he called it white mail, by how much white mail you got. And so this is an old school direct mail term. It was, when I send a newsletter out, do I get like physical letters back in the mail? Like someone being like, I read your newsletter, like an envelope, right? And so for us, obviously it's like email replies or like DMs or whatever, but the health of your business is dependent on how many people are saying thank you, or like, I love your stuff, or this helped me, or I got this added benefit from whatever. If you're not getting any of that, you don't have a community and you don't have a connection with them. And so again, newsletters is just one of the, if not the best way to create that connection and community, where people are gonna be like, you know what? I'm not in the market for a house at all, but I read your newsletter and I actually went to that park and my kids had the best day of the summer. Now you're that realtor that's in their head forever, just because of that little interaction from the newsletter.
Yeah, and the person that reads the newsletter is significantly more likely to be better educated, to also like have a better understanding of product, of what they want. So it's gonna be a quicker sale longer term.
Yeah, so start a newsletter. An email list is people who you've acquired names and email addresses, and you just send them offers. They're both an email list. They're both an email list, technically. Yeah. It's what you send to them that's the difference between an email list and an offer. Old school internet marketing, we've been at this game forever, is, people built email lists so that they can send you every single day, they're gonna send you a new offer. right? Whether it was an affiliate product, there was a big product launch, there, whatever that it is, and you're just using the email list to extract as much money as you can out of each and every subscriber. And again, on the newsletter side, it's yes, I want to acquire as many email addresses as I can, but I genuinely want to help everybody who's reading the newsletter to live a little better, have a better life, get a better outcome in whatever that it is, because I see the long-term value. I don't need to extract every dollar out of the list today, because I know that these people are going to be with me for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I know this happens to you all the time. It happens to me. Like when, I launched the sunglass brand, I had people that had bought products from me 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. They don't even have kids. They don't even have kids that wear these kinds of sunglasses, but they just want to support me because they've been getting good stuff from me, via email, right? Which is, my newsletter. And there's no specific format to a newsletter. Like mine, I literally just write in plain text, which means it's like a white background and words, right? Like that's my newsletter. But it's always like, hey, I just did this and here's what's happening, and like taking people behind the scenes in my life. And again, 10, 15, 20-year relationships that I have with people through email, because I wasn't buy my thing and then tomorrow buy my thing and then the next day buy my thing, because that person is going to give up on you and unsubscribe and leave your world very, very quickly. So to me, that's the difference between an email list and a newsletter. Is one is very short-term money extraction, and there's a time and a place for that, but I'm more on the how can I provide value for this person for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We're playing the long game, right? Like me and you've been doing this together for over 10 years now, right? Like it's stupid. And we just continue to add value to each other, and we find for every day for the last 17 years, we haven't done projects together, but we always find ways back to each other because Los is always putting out good stuff. Craig's always putting out good stuff.
There's a lot of people that have not been here 17 years. Yeah. I was watching a video about somebody who's like, man, that guy's an OG. He's been in the game for like 4 years. I was like, bro, stop.
4 years?
Yeah.
Like 20.
That's enough. So the way you look at things that work, you basically, let's look at the email list. You're gonna basically, let's say you have 1,000 people that are on that newsletter, okay? That email list, let's just call it a list for now. And you're gonna send an email, right, to 1,000 people, okay? That 1,000 people, you're gonna get 200 people that open. You're gonna get a 20% open rate on that. Does that make sense? Right? And so out of that 20% of people that opened it, now you're going to look at the newsletter, and depending on how many things, let's say you just have one thing to click on. It's like, hey, check out this, this cold plunge. Cool. So out of those people, that 200 that are there, 100 of those people clicked, right? So now you can figure out your click rate based on that. And then from there, you're sending them to a sales page or whatever the goal might be, whether it's sales page or to apply somewhere or to buy something, whatever the case, right? And whatever people from that click went to that page and then bought, you can see now your cost of acquisition, your buyers, all that. So you just math it back all the way down. And honestly, this is really good. We'll create a structure kind of on the next video and kind of really just go on like the basics of newsletter opens and kind of create a couple of suggestions for you guys that we can whiteboard, because there's a difference there on like, hey, I'm measuring for sales on that tub, on that cold plunge. And on another one, I could be measuring for, did this advertisement work for your heat exposure pads because you gave me $1,000 to send a couple of, like snippets inside of the newsletter, a couple of paragraphs possibly, or maybe like a whole little segment inside of that, right? That would be measured differently, because we've got to see if what you're paying is good enough for us to create more than enough sales to warrant that revenue that you're giving us, right?
Yeah, I think even just taking it one step is, what are you trying to measure for? Like, what is the goal of it? Like, are you trying to get more sales? Is it just a goodwill?
Are you just trying to get exposure?
Right.
Yeah, because so we'll definitely, this actually opened up a good thing, because like we'll definitely kind of break it down in different verticals, because looking for exposure, if you pay me or us to get exposure, now you're just looking for, hey, how many people clicked? How many people saw this thing? Which changes the way of how we should look at those numbers. So it's really about, what are you optimizing for, and what are you trying to get out of building or paying into a newsletter as a potential advertiser.
Yeah, and every business is a little bit different. So I think of, like, I used to do a lot of newsletters for like financial advisors. If they sent we were doing physical newsletters back in the day, where we would mail newsletters in the mail, and we would send 12 of them out, one a month. And if they got one client on those newsletters per year, it paid for the newsletter 1,000 times over, because a client was worth $50, $60, $70,000 to them, right? And that's only 1 year. If they're getting 1% of a $1 million account. And so, a different story if I'm selling a $50 watch band, right? There's a much different payback cycle that I need for these kinds of things. Good news with email, it's a whole hell of a lot cheaper than paper and ink and stamps and all those things that make me look like a grandpa doing these videos. But again, it's just like thinking back to like, what do you want to get out of this? What is a customer worth to you? Like, for consulting things that you do, like you need like one client a quarter, and it would warrant all the effort, right? It's just there's different things in deal flow, and like, what are you looking to get out of it? That sometimes it's a little harder to measure.
Yeah. On a basic level, you're going to use your social media accounts right now. We're not going to spend money on ads. That's going to be different, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to get there now, but you're going to create content on TikTok, YouTube, and on all the social platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is that you're better at. Is it writing or is it creating videos, right? To get exposure and get some subscribers, get some followers, right? About a particular topic. Then you're going to like engage with them, create content, create kind of a little bit of like know, like, trust with them. And then you're going to go to a company like Beehive that is a email marketing newsletter service. And you're going to pay for a monthly subscription. And let's say that it's on health and wellness, and you're going to now create a newsletter on topics about health and wellness, weight loss, tips, nutrition, athletic workouts, recovery, and maybe a video on like some supplementation for the first one, right? And so that's your basic first newsletter. Now you're going to write that inside of Beehive, and then you're going to basically create a link. You can use like a Hoobie or any kind of like short link shortener inside of like your social media accounts to start. And then just say, hey guys, I created a newsletter. I want to build a community that does X, Y, Z. The newsletter is going to help you achieve these results, and it's going to create all this kind of content that I'm going to curate. Basically, I'm curating all this content for you guys. It's absolutely free to join. Just click the link over here and it'll take you to the newsletter. And then once they join the newsletter, you basically just start sending more. As often as you like. Sometimes you can start it once a week. More advanced people get into the 2-3 times. Now that's kind of like bigger, broader topics, a bigger addressable market, but like on a basics, and then we will dive deeper, and he'll probably add a couple of things before we go. That's kind of like the most step-by-step initial that I can go. And then obviously we can go into more tools, software, processes, but just kind of like to not reinvent the wheel, those are the steps.
Yeah, I'm going to Beehive. Like Tyler, great dude, came from Morning Brew, helped to build a lot of their tech, started Beehive. It's all in one. It'll help you to build the landing page where people can enter their email address. It stores their email address, and then it allows you to build and send the newsletter. So I'm literally just go to Beehive and sign up. They have a freemium type model. That's where I would go. And just like Lo said, like I would just be pushing people from social to that landing page on Beehive, sign up, free newsletter. Yeah, don't be any more ambitious than once a week in the beginning. Yeah. You might even be like once a month, for the first 2-3 months as you're building subscribers, and then once you have subscribers,
just be consistent. If it's once a month,
be consistent.
Let them know, but be consistent once a month. If it's once a week, don't do it once every other week. Once a week. Once you lose consistency, you lose community because 100%. People can't rely on you about that.
Yeah, love it. Great question.
All right, guys, subscribe, join the notifications, and follow us because we're working for free.
Yeah.
See you guys.